What's up, everybody? From my last video, I talked about fixing the oil leak on the vehicle. So today, that's what we're going to be doing with God willing. Hopefully today I don't break anything and cause a major catastrophe, but I'm here at my garage at home and I'm going to try this out today on my own. So if you can see here, I'm going to show you where the oil leak is at. I'll show you where the problem at. So as you can see here, I'm not sure if you can see it or not with the mixture. Obviously oil and water don't mix. You see the little 3 spots here. So there's one up there and there's another one up there. So as you can see, it's leaking pretty bad. However, we're gonna try to get that fixed today. All right, so I got the vehicle in the garage and all set up and ready to go. So I'll show you real quick where the leak is at. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get in there, but this is the oil filter housing. Right below the oil filter housing, there's a gasket, and I'll show you the gasket in a second. That goes bad after a time, and I'm super surprised that a whole bunch of people is not talking about this. But this thing creates a leak that is ridiculous to get to. It drips all the way down onto the transmission, and my concern basically, if it leaks onto the actual cats or the downpipes that I have, that it'll create a fire. So I haven't driven this car since this occurred. So I'll go ahead and show you the gasket real quick. All right, so this is the little gasket here that goes bad. After a certain amount of time, this thing flattens out on the actual oil filter housing, and it creates a pretty bad leak. Again, I'm not sure why people are not talking about this enough, but I'm hoping that this video will kind of help people to see where this can go bad if you have an oil leak, right? So they say German vehicles are notorious for oil leaks, and this is probably one of them. So if you can see the actual part number there, there's the part number up there. So it's fairly common for this to happen, but at the same time, I'm hoping that I'll be able to kind of fix it. So with this job, I'm expecting it to be kind of like a 2-day process. Okay. The advice that I got is that when removing the supercharger, there's a lot of stuff that can kind of deteriorate and go bad after a certain amount of time. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm very careful once this is removed, and don't break anything. That's the main objective, is not to break anything, right? So
don't screw it up.
This is a 2-day thing. I mean, it could go longer than expected, but at the same time, I'm hoping not. All right, what's good? So I got the supercharger off right now. I'll show you that in a second. It wasn't that difficult to do, but I ran into a couple snags. I didn't break anything, for one. So I would say it's definitely one of those do-it-yourselves you could actually accomplish on your own. So let me show you real quick. All right, so as you can see, the supercharger is out. I did waste a little coolant right here, but yeah, it was crazy. The coolant was just pouring out. This is my PCV valve here, which I did replace. So what I'm going to replace now is this little valve here, and supposedly there is a gasket that's leaking inside of here. This is the oil filter housing right here. As you can see, like, things are actually kind of wet on top of that, so that kind of worries me a little bit to see that all dry. But in here there is a gasket. I'm hoping that's my issue. To get to that is gonna have to take some work here, a lot more work actually. So there's some bolts that is behind. Let me see if you can't see it here, but they're behind here. Some bolts there and studs that I gotta kind of get out of there and ease the housing out and get that gasket back on there without taking the whole housing off. So I'll see how hard of a job that is, and I'll let y'all know how it goes. Now I'm really All right, so we ran into a little snag. When I took the supercharger off, I checked around just to make sure that the leak was coming from where I thought it was coming from. And I saw a bunch of oil like sitting right under the PCV valve, right? So man, I was hoping that wasn't the problem, but I went and checked my my spark plugs just to make sure that they wasn't wet, and so far so good. They're dry. I'm not sure if the PCV valve is malfunctioning, but when I first initially bought the car, the PCV valve went out, so I got that changed, and I went back home and I checked the actual I did a diagnostic check on it, and the PCV valve came up as an error again, right? So I called the guys that put it on, and they basically said, hey, you gotta basically live with the PCV valve going out, because they say they changed everything, right? Now, I don't know if it's still malfunctioning or not, but there could be an issue with the PCV valve instead of the filter like I thought. Now, let me show you real quick. So, in this area right here, I don't know if you can see it, but there is a bunch of oil sitting right there. The PCV valve is right here. Let me see if I can get in there. So that's coolant, and the oil, if you can see it, sitting right there, right? And the PCV valve is right there. But yeah, it's there's a bunch of oil right there. I don't know what that is coming from. And from what I see, this is all kind of, this part right here is pretty much dry. That's dry. So I don't know where the oil could be coming from. But I'm thinking it's gonna be my PCV valve, unfortunately. All right, we're back again with the repairing of the oil leak of the S4. So yesterday I ran into a little issue where I couldn't get the PVC hose from the engine. There's a certain way that you do that, and I couldn't figure it out. So shout out to Aaron at Car Motion. I'm gonna put his link below. So he gave me the tips on how to do that, and he sent me a little video on how to take it off, and I got it off immediately. So as of right now is here where I'm getting closer and closer to the actual oil filter housing here. Now this is the PVC hose right here that I couldn't get off.
What did he say?
There's a screw that goes behind here. You can take that out pretty easy. But this part up here is a nightmare to take off if you don't know what you're doing. So there's a YouTube video on how to take that off. So once I watched that video, it was easy, super easy to take off, and I was struggling. I repeat, you cannot pull this off by hand or pliers. Don't do that, okay? Lesson learned. So now I'm back to the actual oil filter housing area. So behind this oil filter housing, there's a metal bracket behind there. If I can get that metal bracket off, that'll give me enough clearance to go ahead and get those 4 screws that's bolted onto this metal piece right here. That way I can get those studs out and pull that forward, so I can actually accomplish what I came down here to accomplish, as far as getting that filter replaced on the oil filter housing. Now, whether I fix that, and I repeat it, I'm hoping that I'll fix the oil leak problem, but at the same time, I'm not too sure, because I see oil in places where there should be oil. So I hope this will work, but you guys will see it through. Got it. All right. There it is. As you can see, this is the little part right here. It's all flattened out. Now, when I put this in and it still leaks. Hold up 1 second, let me turn my mic on. All right, so here we go. I managed to get it out. This little rubber gasket right here. This is basically flattened out. Now, the once I put this back in, and it continues to still leak, I'm gonna imagine that it's the entire oil filter housing. But at the same time, like I wanted to kind of save a little bit money, and I went with just the gasket first. Now, you can say, why didn't you just change the entire oil filter housing to start? Well, I wanted to learn, for one, and for two, taking that entire housing off, there's a large stud in there that's just kind of hard to get past a metal bracket. So I think it's a little bit easier to get this off than to take the whole entire housing off. Now, granted, if it still leaks, I understand how to get back in there and take the entire thing off now. So it's a learning experience. So again, I did this at my house with the help of my homeboy Aaron. You know, he gave me a lot of good tips, and he kept me motivated, kept me confident on my ability to do this. So now, once I get this back in, all it is plug everything back in, get the supercharger back on. We'll see what happens. What's good? I know I didn't show y'all what I was doing because there's plenty enough videos on YouTube to show you guys how to do exactly what I was doing, right? Now, the intent of this video is to show the average Joe with no mechanical skills at all, no mechanical skills, that you can do this type of work at the comfort of your own home, and you can save some money while doing it, right? Now, yeah, I made it look a little easy. I did make it look a little easy. However, it was not an easy job, right? I'll take you through the journey real quick. So I had to take off the supercharger to get to the oil filter housing, as you've seen in the video. Now, I did what I went in there to do. I changed the gasket out, put the gasket in, and screwed everything back on. Got the supercharger back on. Now, when it came down to the coolant, right, I didn't want any air in my coolant system, so I wanted to do the easier way out with taking off the bleeder screws and pumping coolant back into the supercharger and getting rid of the air bubbles from just that portion of the actual supercharger, right? Now, as you know, these superchargers has rubber little bleeder screws. Now, Audi, come on, man, really? You put rubber screws on top of a $2,600 supercharger. All right, it's not the most expensive supercharger, but at the same time, like, come on, man. But I understand why they did that. You know what I'm saying? I guess the intent is, hey, those bleeder screws are not meant to actually bleed coolant out of that, because I'm pretty sure that they used a vacuum seal to actually fill your coolant if they do. Now, with that said, I had the bright idea of trying to take those screws off, those little rubber or plastic screws. And trust me, like my homeboy Aaron, I talked about Aaron a few times, right? Those screws snapped on first turn, right? So there's a few ways to actually get that out. I had like no top stud on the actual screw itself. So the idea was to actually make a screwdriver hot, melt it within the actual plastic stud, and then you'll be able to guide it out. It worked for some people. Now, I know that these screws have never came out on mine, right? So I did the whole thing with burning it and putting it in. However, every time it got cold enough to actually turn, my screw just crumbled. Nightmare. Yes, it was a total nightmare. Now, I managed to get the studs out. However, the way I got them out, it was pretty rough, right? So I had to take the supercharger back off and finish getting out the rest of the rubber screws. Now the right side was fine, so I was trying to replace those. I got the 034 bleeder screws, which was pretty expensive. So the only problem with those is that the right side of the driver's side of the supercharger, it went in fine, but the left side, I must have did something. I melted to hole too big, because that screw was not going back in. It was not going back in. So it would just drop into the hole. It was dropping the hole, which told me that I made a bigger hole on the passenger side of my supercharger. Yes, it was a nightmare. Now, I had to pretty much do surgery on the passenger side of the supercharger, basically, right? So I had to make some new threads and put the right screw in, because the 034 screws are very rare, right? So they're M8s by 1 millimeter. Let me know if you find an M8 by 1 millimeter, and that's basically a 7 millimeter screw, and I will give you $100. Actually, you know what? I'll give you more than $100. So that screw is very rare. So what I did was I made a different screw. I grinded. I got a different screw with the tapping screw that I had. I made a different hole. I made the hole a little bit bigger, and I put the M8 screw on with different threads, with different thread patterns, right? So initially the thread pattern is 1 millimeter, but I went 1.25 and put a 1.25 screw in there, and I made my own little bleed screw. So it worked. At the same time though, I don't think I'm finished with this job, but right now I think I'm good to go. I ran diagnostics on the car, zero engine faults, which is very rare, and I didn't have any bolts left over. So I think I did a pretty good job for doing it in my garage. But at the same time, again, I don't think I'm finished with this job, only because I wasn't 100% sure that's where the oil leak was coming from. Now, yeah, I bought all the stuff to change that out, but at the same time, like, I wasn't really sure if that's what the issue was, right? I ran into a few things that I saw that it could have been the oil leak, right? The valve covers, the valve cover gaskets, those go bad over time. The chain gasket in the back, that goes bad over time. Or it could be my rear main seal, which is the worst case scenario. And God forbid, please don't let it be my rear main seal, because that is RIP to my car. I think I did a good job for not being a mechanic. At the same time, I got some more work to do, and where there's more work, more grind, right? So, all right, so let me know what you think about this video. If you had this issue before, if you know about this issue and how you resolved it, and also give me a like and subscribe if you can, all right? Y'all be out. Peace. Take two. Focus. Hello. Are you gonna focus?
I be popping on 22-3. Got a man attack, my man, pride attack. Mama told me you're my blue check.